Report of a 79-mile-per-hour wind on a buoy that was just offshore relative to Port Mansfield. And right now, that center of circulation is right about in there, so it's not very far away from making landfall. But even after that happens, we're going to get into the eastern side of the eye wall, and it's going to, as I mentioned, just go on for a very, very long time. The worst of the weather is just south of Corpus Christi, so gusty tonight and rainy. Winds gusting 50 miles per hour, maybe 60, but it's not going to be nearly as bad as it's going to be farther south. And then here you see the model forecast going forward. We've still got the very gusty wind in Corpus. It's going to continue to be rough in Brownsville, in McAllen, in Harlingen. Notice how the rain going through tonight, it actually steps up quite a bit in the Rio Grande Valley. So it's going to be a very tough night, not just in terms of wind, but also in terms of very heavy rain. We find a lot more of that even into tomorrow morning. And then finally, by the middle of the day tomorrow, finally we start to see some cessation of that heavier rain in the Rio Grande Valley. So right now looking for as much as a double-digit rainfall in parts of South Texas. And this is an area that is notorious for flash flooding. So this is going to be one of our big worries going forward. The threat of inland flooding, which of course is compounded by the fact that we've had an ongoing COVID crisis. This is actually, this region, the Rio Grande Valley, has been the epicenter of the COVID crisis in the state of Texas. And so you're layering another crisis on top of a crisis that's already ongoing, and our hearts going out to all the people of the Rio Grande Valley. We're expecting a pretty good bit of rain farther southwest as well. There you see the flood threat, but that heavy rain also coming into northern Mexico and into Monterrey, home to 5 million people and a very mountainous area there, very elevated area. And so there's going to be a serious flash flood threat in that area as well as that comes through. And we don't want to forget about the storm surge threat. 4 to 6 feet is what we can expect in areas around Corpus Christi. And let's get out to Mike Seidel right now. And Mike, more of an onshore flow coming in over the next several hours and high tide approaching as well. So we are far from out of the woods there.
Yeah, we thought that by this time today that it would be in. That was the thinking this time yesterday, but it slowed down, and now we've got to deal with another high tide about 7:30 this evening, and so we got more water coming in. Here it comes right now. This is the main entrance to the beach at South Padre Island, and we've got continuing coverage on Hurricane Hanna. Top of the hour, 5 Eastern, 4 here in Texas. We've got Dr. Rick Knabb, Mark Elliott. I'll be back here, and Paul Goodlow will come back at 6 Eastern from North Padre Island. Stay with us here on the Weather Channel through this evening for more coverage.
The fighting spirit is one we all share. For Anderson .Paak, it's the story of a man who came from nothing, who found purpose and success in his passion for music. Modelo, brewed for those with a fighting spirit.
I don't keep track of regrets, and I don't add up the years. But what I do count on is Boost High Protein.
And now there's Boost Mobility with key nutrients to help support joints, muscles, and bones. Try Boost Mobility with added collagen.
Our 12-step process provides 100% pure quality water.
Earn box tops for your school with Nestle Pure Life. Available across these fun packs.
I wanted more from my COPD medicine. That's why I've got the power of 1, 2, 3 medicines with Trelegy.
The only FDA-approved once-daily 3-in-1 COPD treatment.
Trelegy, the power of 1, 2, 3. Trelegy, 1, 2, 3. Trelegy.
With Trelegy and the power of 1, 2, 3, I'm breathing better. Trelegy works 3 ways: to open airways, keep them open, and reduce inflammation for 24 hours of better breathing.
Trelegy won't replace a rescue inhaler for sudden breathing problems. Trelegy is not for asthma. Tell your doctor if you have a heart condition or high blood pressure before taking it. Do not take Trelegy more than prescribed. Trelegy may increase your risk of thrush, pneumonia, and osteoporosis. Call your doctor if worsened breathing, chest pain, mouth or tongue swelling, problems urinating, vision changes, or eye pain occur.
Think your COPD medicine is doing enough? Maybe you should think again.
Ask your doctor about once-daily Trelegy. We know times are hard, and we're here for you. Find support at Trelegy.com.
All your Cracker Barrel favorites, like our crispy Southern fried chicken, our scratch-made buttermilk pancakes, and our signature chicken and dumplings, can be enjoyed in our home or yours. Dine in or get curbside or delivery at crackerbarrel.com.
When it's especially important to keep skin clean, keep reaching for Cetaphil. Recommended by dermatologists. Awarded by Allure. And most of all, loved by skin. Cetaphil, the cleanser sensitive skin loves.
New lean cuisine bowls with 20% more food for 20% more satisfaction. They're nutritious and delicious. New lean cuisine bowls. Delicious your way.
I didn't order a pizza.
I know, but that Parker promo saved me so much on my insurance. Brought you a little something special.
Parker, State Farm offers everyone surprisingly great rates.
You're the man.
And you want the real deal? Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Target's same-day delivery. Contactless delivery right to your door, designed for your day, so you can work out. Join in. And game on. Just download the Target app and try it today.
Take a bite out of summer with Marco's. Try our delicious specialty pizzas cooked at 450 degrees on golden crust or no crust in new specialty pizza bowls, $7.99 each. Order today at marcos.com.
The heavy rain side of the storm, so we need to be aware of that. So don't take anything for granted. Don't ever underestimate the power of water and what it can do.
Welcome into special coverage as we track Hurricane Hanna slamming the South Texas coast. I'm meteorologist Mark Elliott alongside hurricane expert Dr. Rick Knabb over the next several hours. We're going to be following the potential for deadly inland flooding, fierce winds, storm surge. No matter how you slice it, a dangerous night ahead for parts of Texas. We've been getting live images in from South Texas, including from storm tracker Charles Peak, who's in the Kingsville, Texas area. He's been driving through that region throughout the day and continues to bring us these live images right now. The rainfall rates have been increasing. The winds have been increasing, and including just off the coast, some new kind of alerts for some strong storms off the shore that could eventually yield tornadoes onshore. We'll be watching that potential as we go through the next several hours. But gosh, it's a busy evening with an eye of a significant hurricane knocking on the Texas coastline. So want to go into the lab now. Hurricane expert Dr. Rick Knabb is standing by. Dr. Knabb, gosh, this storm really increased over the past 24 hours.
Yeah, 24 hours ago right now, Hanna had maximum sustained winds of 50 miles per hour. And now with the new advisory, its max sustained winds are 90 miles per hour, 40 miles an hour in 24 hours. That's rapid intensification. Nobody, no models forecast that much strengthening, but kudos to the Hurricane Center for getting up that hurricane warning 24 hours ago. The landfall of the center hasn't happened just yet. It's 10, 12 miles offshore from Padre Island, but moving west, southwest at only 8 miles an hour. That's a little slower than yesterday. I don't like that number being as low as it is. That's going to lengthen the duration of the winds and the rains. The hurricane hunters have been out there. That's a big reason why we know how strong the system is. And, this is the Air Force folks that have been out there, and they are on their way home to Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi, Mississippi, but on their last pass through with the flight level winds and that stepped frequency microwave radiometer that remotely senses the surface wind speeds, they got the data showing it's up to 90 miles an hour. So 95 is top end of Cat 1. I think it's going to run out of time before getting to Cat 2, but my goodness, what a strong system. Now, there are slight changes to the hurricane and tropical storm warnings on this advisory, just a little shaving them off. Port O'Connor northward, no longer under a tropical storm warning, and then they've shaved off kind of the northern part here of the hurricane warning, but Corpus Christi are still in it. So Port Aransas northward, that hurricane warning no longer in effect. Everything else still in play, and look at how far inland these tropical storm warnings go. It's going going to be an inland wind event and an inland, perhaps possibly devastating flood event. We still have coastal flood issues with storm surge ongoing. The storm surge warning remains in effect. All of these bay fronts, all the waterfront here, we're going to have onshore flow for quite some time, and we have definitely realized the 4 or 5 feet of storm surge flooding above ground. Flash flood watch is in effect, and I'll show you in a few minutes where the flood advisories are starting to show up here in deep South Texas. But that's going to be the big issue over the next 24 hours. Very likely flooding, a high risk down in the Rio Grande Valley. A lot of population down there. So let's take a look closely at the circulation itself. On the high-res satellite loop that they've got on this, you can start to see, just as it's starting to come ashore, clearing out of the eye on satellite. That's the clearest that's really ever looked, but on the radar, it's pretty easy to pick out. So here's Padre Island, here's Kennedy County, here's Willacy County, and Raymondville, and the center of circulation is right about in there, about a dozen miles offshore, moving west-southwest about 8 miles an hour. So I would say next hour and a half, plus or minus, we should have the landfall here on Padre Island, but that will be just the beginning of this event, and what a 24 hours it has been. Again, 50 miles an hour yesterday. At this time, 90 miles an hour. Now, pressure has come down, not surprisingly, commensurate with that. A lot of it overnight, and then a lot of it during the day today. Give you quickly the latest track and intensity forecast from the Hurricane Center. Not only do we have deep South Texas to worry about, but this big area of wind and especially rainfall is headed toward the very populous area of Monterrey, Mexico. It is going to be, really hammering that big metro area, 5 million people or so, with some very heavy potentially flooding rains as well. Quick look at the future radar. Here's what we'll talk about in a few minutes in more detail. The south side of Hanna continues to be the most loaded with the longest duration, heaviest rainfall, and that is what is coming to the Rio Grande Valley overnight tonight, along with some strong winds. And then that's going into northern Mexico. And it's going to be a long night and a long morning tomorrow in deep South Texas. Once it starts raining, and it's really kind of started now, it's not going to stop until maybe tomorrow afternoon. And the winds are going to be significant as well. Watch the inland areas, the winds that you're going to get gust-wise as this moves ashore. Because it has come ashore, it's coming ashore so strong, it's going to take a while for it to wind down. So we're going to get stronger winds farther inland than would have otherwise been the case had this been coming ashore as a tropical storm. Look at McAllen, could be gusting 50, 60 miles an hour tomorrow morning. Mark, what a storm, what a hurricane, and it is just beginning. We're about to get landfall to center, but now the waterfall starts in the Rio Grande Valley inland.
Yeah, landfall does not mean the end of the story by any stretch. So we want to go into the storm now, bringing in meteorologist Mike Seidel, who's in Port Aransas. Mike, what's your concern right now for the Port Aransas area as this storm is knocking on the Texas coastline?
Well, it's nice to hear that they dropped the hurricane warning for Port Aransas North. We are in Nueces County, north of Corpus Christi, where there's still a hurricane warning. Our winds have gusted to 53 miles an hour. And what we've seen today is the beach pretty much underwater all day long, even through low tide. We've been out since about 4:30 local time this morning. We took a break for lunch. But the entire time, the wind has been pushing the water on shore as the tide is going out. Now, we've got another high tide to deal with. This time yesterday, we thought this thing would be in by now, and we'd be going into the low tide cycle, then into the high tide cycle. So we had low tide at about 2:30. So now the tide is coming back in. That's going to take another 5 to 6 hours. With that said, we're still getting rainfall, but we haven't had, the 1 inch per hour rainfall totals. We've got about an inch of rain so far at the nearby Mustang Island Airport. But there's the Gulf of Mexico like a giant washing machine. This is a long, wide beach, and what has happened is the surge has come up. Now over at Aransas Pass, the water's about 3 feet. So we got about a 3-foot surge there. That's over by where the ferry is. And we've got deep cuts in this dune. Now, these dunes are impressive. This one on the other side looks like it goes up about 25 or 30 feet. But you can see how we've lost some of the dune here, cut into this. And look at this sign, this warning sign. It's flapping around with the wind. And we'll see this water come all the way back up the street as we go towards high tide this evening. And we're going to have some more rain, too. But we're not going to get the hurricane force wind gusts. That seems unlikely. On radar, you can see we've got plenty of rain rotating in. Some of the stronger squalls may give us a gust to 60, but, 60-mile-an-hour winds may uproot a tree or two. We've seen some palm fronds down, but the biggest cleanup, I think, is going to be right here on the beach. Look at this. Look at everything that's floated in, washed in. Earlier, we had the porta potties. We have the trash cans. Now we've got these blue cylinder cans. We've got wood. We've got a long piece of decking there. So most of the debris we've seen is coming from the water up into these cuts between the dunes and here on the only entrance, really the main entrance to Port Aransas Beach. So Mark Elliott, obviously, as they say, it could be a lot worse, and it is worse down towards Baffin Bay. We've been talking about Port Mansfield, a small town down there, and then the inland flooding in South Texas. All things considered, this area is going to be in pretty good shape come tomorrow.
And that is great news, although with this storm slowing down and a significant hurricane at that slowing down, gosh, the waterworks are just beginning for areas south of Mike. And Mike just mentioned Port Mansfield. We've had a 79-mile-per-hour wind gust there, and that has already caused some damage in the region. We've got a coastal flood advisory as well as a flash flood watch for Port Mansfield through tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. Central Time. I think some of the high-resolution models are now really keying in on just how much water is going to be falling from this storm. I want to go back to Dr. Knabb now, who's watching that, because, gosh, over a foot of rain, that's not out of the question for some communities here.
And isolated spots could get like 1.5 feet. I mean, it is really going to fall. And it's not just what the peak single amount might be. It's the amount of rain that's going to fall over a large area and the volume of water that's going to fall in deep South Texas that's going to lead to the flooding problem that could not only cover roads, but get into structures as well. So Hanna continues to be kind of south-loaded in terms of the heaviest persistent rainfall. The northern eye wall isn't quite as loaded up that way, and that was the way it was out over the Gulf. The models picked up on that, and this is not your ordinary flash flood watch, especially down in this zone. And this is the area where the Weather Prediction Center has issued their rare high risk. This red area where you have very likely flash flooding, and it's not like it can't happen elsewhere, but down in here is where the highest risk is, and those are the kinds of days that are most prone to taking lives and actually causing damage from rain-induced flooding. Big picture in terms of how much rain could fall, this is a broad brush, okay? A large area is going to get 3 to 5, and I'm circling Texas, but let's not forget our friends down in Mexico that are going to get up to 1 foot of rain. The mountains are going to help squeeze some of that out too, so this is a big-time flood risk down there as well. But locally, we're going to get more than 1 foot. I'm confident of that, unfortunately. Some places could get as much as 15 or even 18 inches locally. You can see how well defined the system is, not only in terms of having an eye on radar and all that, but a wide berth of heavy rain and dense convection. So the fact that this ramped up to a high-end Cat 1 hurricane is bad news for the rainfall issue, because it means a longer duration of really solid rainfall. So you can see how the southern half of this is the really heavy rain, and now we're starting to get the flood advisories issued by the local weather service offices. And I would consider these to be pre-flash flood warnings. This is not going to just be an advisory the rest of the night. Right now, it's minor flood risk until 6:45. But at any time, these could go to flash flood warning and eventually maybe flash flood emergency. So down here in Cameron County for Brownsville and Harlingen, your advisory goes till 6:45 local time. Already had a couple of inches fall. And these are hourly rain rates in this area. That's 1 inch per hour. But that's not nearly as bad as it's going to get. In the southern eye wall here, just offshore, the radar is estimating 3.5 inches per hour. And in the last 3 hours, in that southern eye wall, the radar is estimated 1/2 foot in 3 hours. I mean, this is serious business, and in the past 6 hours, even more than that. So that's what's coming ashore. And again, here's the center of Hanna up in here, and the southwestern eye wall now getting into portions of the Raymondville area and east of there. And so in Willacy County, you've got a flood advisory till 6 o'clock. And then up in Kennedy County, east of Highway 77, the expressway there, the flood advisory till 6:15 local time. And just to give you an idea, near Port Mansfield, we're getting 2-inch per hour rain rates. But again, the higher rain rates, 3 to 5 inches per hour, are just offshore in that southern eye wall. Again, the future radar is a scary, scary view here, because you'll see how the Rio Grande Valley area, the populous area there, is going to be in just solid, heavy rain for hours and hours. This is midnight. This is 4 a.m. This is 7 a.m. and it's still going on, because the path of the center is going to be just to your north, and you're on the rainier south side. Usually you want to be on the right side of a hurricane if you want to get the worst of it. And you're breathing a sigh of relief if you're on the left side. For rainfall, it's kind of the opposite this time, and it could still be raining into tomorrow afternoon, and there is the potential flooding disaster looming for Monterrey, Mexico. Tomorrow night into Monday morning, the flash flood risk continues. This is going to be a long duration event, Mark, and we got to be telling people what to do about it. Don't drive across a water-covered road. Don't drive around a barricade. Don't play in it. Don't bike in it. Don't walk in it. And if you're stuck in your home tonight and floodwaters are impinging into your structure and you feel like your life is threatened, call 911. Don't get out into the car to escape flooding in your home.
We may also see the added bonus of flood warning and tornado warning in the same location, which is always a difficult setup. If there's water in your lowest level, don't go sheltering from a tornado in that lowest level. The lowest dry level is where we need you to be if there are tornado warnings coming into play through this evening when that threat is ramping up. Let's take a look at first this radar, a clear eye from the radar picture, that heavy rain threat that Dr. Knabb was just telling us about. Let's go kind of city by city here, zoomed in so you can see what to expect. Hours of that heavy rain, that east side of the storm as it moves inland will continue to have that Gulf of Mexico component, and thus the heavy rain could be there for a while. There's not a large zone of, say, really dry continental land air that's going to cut off that very heavy rainfall. So you're in this for a while in that zone between Corpus and Brownsville, and you'll continue, as Dr. Knabb mentioned, to have that heavy rain through much of the day tomorrow. And so that flood threat is going to continue with us. Look at some of the numbers here, suggesting that, local areas could go foot to foot and a half of rain. That is a lot of precipitation in a relatively short period of time. We're also looking up the coast now, where 3-4 inches of rain from Corpus to Victoria is not out of the question. Local flooding is not ruled out, even as far north as the Houston metro area. Models not as keen on huge totals in this area, but we know we've seen some pretty persistent banding features on that south side of Houston, a vulnerable flood spot for sure, and there could certainly be some embedded tornado circulations with that as well. So here's a look at some of those bands as they go rolling on through. The winds won't be the big factor here, but some severe weather could be. Live coverage all night right here on the Weather Channel. Stay with us.
When the food you love doesn't love you back, stay smooth and fight heartburn fast with Tums smoothies.
Experience the joy of a bigger world in a highly connected Lexus vehicle at the Golden Opportunity Sales Event.
Lease the 2020 ES350 for $359 a month for 36 months.
Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer.
I don't keep track of regrets, and I don't add up the years. But what I do count on is Boost High Protein.
And now there's Boost Mobility with key nutrients to help support joints, muscles, and bones. Try Boost Mobility with added collagen.
When it's especially important to keep skin clean, keep reaching for Cetaphil. Recommended by dermatologists. Awarded by Allure. And most of all, loved by skin. Cetaphil, the cleanser sensitive skin loves.
Severe storm damage can cost you thousands in repairs. Hi, Phil Swift here. This storm season, you need the entire Flex Seal family of products. Make fast, easy, on-the-spot repairs. Seal up cracks and holes to prevent wind and water from damaging your home. Push Flex Base deep into wet surfaces to help prevent flood damage and make quick automotive repairs. Get the Flex Seal family of products at these fine retailers.
Promotional products may not be able to talk, but you can be certain they're saying a lot in a language that's beyond words. Like, thank you for all you do.
We value your partnership and welcome back. The right products say a lot about you, your team, and your brand. And 4imprint speaks their language. So when your message matters, count on the certainty of 4imprint. Explore thousands of promotional products at 4imprint.com. 4imprint, for certain.
I could only eat on one side of my mouth, so it would be painful for me. Clear Choice put my fears to rest first.
Implants are going to give people that full aspect of their life back. The transformation, it really can be done in one day because we have the whole team there in one place.
Getting dental implants gives you back your confidence, your security, your stability.
Find your keys. Find your get up and go. Find pants that aren't sweats. Find your friends. Find your sense of wonder. Find the world is new again. At Chevy, we'd like to take you there. Now during the Chevy Open Road Sales Event, get up to 15% of MSRP.
Now is not the time to be without medical insurance. You may qualify for a special enrollment if you recently had one of these life changes. You lost your job and your employer's medical plan, or your child lost CHIP or Medicaid coverage. If you recently moved to a new area, if you recently got married, divorced, or had a baby, or if you become a U.S. citizen. Call now. You only have 60 days after these qualifying life events to enroll. Call us today. Just look for the Pink Panther.
Whether they learn about science in a classroom or a kitchen, if recess happens in a schoolyard or a backyard, or lunch is enjoyed in a cafeteria with classmates or on a computer with friends, it all starts here at H-E-B, where you'll find the school supplies kids want and the lunch supplies and snacks they love, all at low prices. So wherever it happens, start your school year here.
Or visit getcupcall.com. So call 1-800-607-5510 now.
Whoever said our planet had to explain itself. Explore the strange phenomena of our weird Earth. Sunday nights on the Weather Channel.
A tropical storm warning is in effect. Currently in our area, 75 degrees with rainy conditions. Tonight, tropical storm conditions likely. Windy with heavy thunderstorms. Low 75. Sunday, windy with thunderstorms. High 81. 1 to 2 inches of rain expected. Here's our 7-day outlook.
We are watching Hurricane Hanna basically sitting right along the South Texas coast at this point. Here's a live look at Corpus Christi, courtesy of Surfline. And gosh, an angry ocean there, right? This is a stronger storm than it was 24 hours ago by a significant margin, up 40 miles per hour with those winds in 24 hours. That is a big change, and that wind moves the water. So yeah, more of a coastal threat than it otherwise would have been. Storm surge warning in place, hurricane warning in place, flash flood watch through tomorrow night across this area. And really, the slowing storm means that all of these threats are going to be with us for that much longer. The core of the heaviest tropical rains will sit over areas for that much longer. We have the latest advisory in as of the 4 o'clock local time, 5 o'clock Eastern advisory, 90 mile per hour Cat 1. That's a big difference from the 50 mile per hour tropical storm you were looking at yesterday. Very well organized in comparison to that. Still moving west-southwest at 8, but again, that motion is slowing, and there is a lot of that tropical moisture around that core circulating around. Now even the north side of this zone is filling in with those heavier bands, increasing a flood threat. It's also, as I mentioned, moving the water. Here are some of the storm surge reports. These are increased levels of water than would otherwise be there. Without the storm, you wouldn't have an additional 4 feet of water pushing against Bob Hall Pier. Port Lavaca reporting 3.5 feet of storm surge at this point. Up the coastline, generally 1 to 2 feet of storm surge here. There's still an onshore flow, big circulation here, and that onshore wind is moving the water. As for where we go from here, landfall is moments away. We're going to get hourly updates on positioning. I would expect within the next hour or two, official landfall will take place. But gosh, Dr. Knabb, we're going to be watching this into the weekend through South Texas, early next week into Mexico, and that means a prolonged flood threat for those that are in the path of this storm.
Yeah, so we definitely don't want people to take the announcement of landfall that will probably occur within the hour as being the end of the event. In fact, for most people who are at greatest risk, it'll be just beginning because it's the south side of Hanna that has the heaviest, longest duration rainfall, and the Rio Grande Valley is going to be on the south side of this track. So here you are in Brownsville and Harlingen and McAllen, the center moving west-southwest in this fashion. You're going to be on this wetter south side. There has always been a little bit south and east loaded, and that's bad news because that means very likely flash flooding, and this is a high-end event, folks. This is a rare occurrence for the Weather Prediction Center to go high risk, as we're painting it in red here, as very likely flash flooding. That means likely roads being covered in water and a distinct possibility of structures being flooded. So let's talk, before I show you where the flood advisories and eventual flash flood warnings are, what do you do to survive this? Because these can be the deadly days when it comes to flash flooding. First of all, you hear us say this all the time, don't drive on any water-covered roadway, and especially this is mostly going to happen at night where you really can't see how much water's on top of the road, and there'll be driving rain with very, very strong winds. You got no shot at knowing how much water's covering that road. And there will be closed roads. If the authorities are out and able to barricade it, you don't want to go drive around any barricades. Shouldn't be on the roads at all, really. Don't let the kids get out there and play in the floodwaters. And you might have to evacuate by instructions from local officials. Call 911 if you're in your home and water is coming in and your life is threatened, and don't touch any wet electrical equipment. So here is the center of Hanna, just a few miles offshore, but we're starting to get the western eye wall and the southern eye wall to come on shore. And so now the flooding problem is beginning in deep South Texas, the Rio Grande Valley area, Brownsville, Harlingen under a flood advisory until 6:45 local time. The rain rates right now are only an inch an hour. That's nothing compared to what's coming later, because then in southern eye wall you're getting 3 or 4 inches an hour, and over the last 3 hours in that southern eye wall, radar estimates more than 8 inches in just 3 hours, and we're going to have it rain all night long. Here we are in Willacy County, east of Raymondville, flood advisory till 6 o'clock, and up in Kennedy County, a flood advisory till 6:15 local time, and up in there near Port Mansfield, it's raining about 1.5 inches per hour, but the higher rain rates are just offshore, and this is a scary looking future radar because it's going to be an all-night ordeal with these very heavy rains on the south side. Mark, it's going to be a really dangerous night, not just because of water, because of wind and tornadoes.
Yeah, I think that severe threat is actually increasing now. We've got that the center of Hanna now moving closer and closer to officially being on the Texas coastline, and with that we've got a different wind speed and a different wind direction with height, so a large area of severe weather potential as we go through the next several hours, and honestly continuing through the night. There is a chance for tornadoes here, about a 3 out of 10 on the Torcon, but it's pretty common with landfalling tropical systems to at least have some tornado warnings, and this is why. This is the generalized look at the surfaced wind flow. You can see that counterclockwise spin around the center of our storm, and yet when you go up to about 5,000 feet up, you still have a counterclockwise spin, but it's shifted. So at any point here, you wind up with different wind directions with height compared to at the surface. That can be ingested into our thunderstorms and wind up giving us tornadoes, even in the outer bands far away from the storm, including outside Houston. So that's the area we're watching for the next several hours. Our continued coverage will be right back.
When a few simple ingredients come together every day to make Alfredo this delicious, you don't mess with perfection. Introducing more of the Alfredo sauce you love on more of your favorite dishes. You heard that right. More Alfredo sauce. so much more, you can even dip your breadsticks in it. Hold your applause.
My new normal, fewer asthma attacks.
Less oral steroids.
Taking my treatment at home.
Nucala is a once-monthly add-on injection for severe eosinophilic asthma, not for sudden breathing problems. Allergic reactions can occur. Get help right away for swelling of face, mouth, tongue, or trouble breathing. Infections that can cause shingles have occurred. Don't stop steroids unless told by your doctor. Tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection. May cause headache, injection site reactions, back pain, and fatigue. Ask your doctor about Nucala at home. Find your new normal with Nucala.
Find your keys. Find your get up and go. Find pants that aren't sweats. Find your friends. Find your sense of wonder. Find the world is new again. At Chevy, we'd like to take you there. Now during the Chevy Open Road Sales Event, get up to 15% of MSRP cash back on select 2020 models. That's over $5,700 cash back on this Equinox. It's time to find new roads again.
When we started Carvana, they told us that selling cars 100% online wouldn't work. But we went to work, building an experience that lets you shop over 17,000 cars from home, creating a coast-to-coast network to deliver your car as soon as tomorrow, recruiting an army of customer advocates to make your experience incredible, and putting you in control of the whole thing with powerful technology. That's why we've become the nation's fastest-growing retailer, because our customers love it. See for yourself at Carvana.com.
Hi, Phil Swift here for Flex Paste, the incredible rubberized paste. Right out of the tub, Flex Paste is super thick. It clings to the surface and it instantly fills gaps and holes. And once Flex Paste dries, it turns into a strong, flexible rubber. To show you the power of Flex Paste, I took this chicken wire. Woo! Bent, shaped, and covered it using only Flex Paste and created the world's first Flex Paste rubber boat. Not only does Flex Paste seal up every hole, but it creates a strong, watertight barrier. And the inside is completely dry. Get Flex Paste and the Flex Seal family of products at FlexSealProducts.com.
There's a bunch of whole almonds in every bar of Hershey's milk chocolate with almonds. Don't believe us? See back for details.
I know people love the dish remote. It's great. So why build in the Google Assistant? I mean, who really needs a TV remote that can turn the thermostat up,
Change temperature to 72.
the lights down,
Dim lights.
and still access their DVR?
Play Rio.
Actually, some people could absolutely use a remote like that.
The new Dish voice remote. Dish, tuned in to you.
Welcome back to Port Aransas, Texas. I'm meteorologist Mike Seidel. Hurricane Hanna. Boy, what a storm. It went from a 50-mile-an-hour tropical storm yesterday to a 90-mile-an-hour hurricane just a little while ago at 5 p.m. Eastern from the Hurricane Center. We got the latest update. Now we're awaiting the statement from them on the official landfall down around Port Mansfield. Here in Port Aransas, we're a couple of hours, a 2.5-hour drive from Port Mansfield, basically where they've had the brunt of the damage. It's a small town, though, about 225 people. Look out here to the Gulf of Mexico. Boy, the Gulf is all churned up. It's been like this since overnight last night. We got out here before sunrise, and this is what we found. The entire beach was underwater. Now, this is a level beach, so it doesn't take much rise. We've had about a 3-foot water rise over Aransas Pass. That's where the ferry is. And you can see that the water has backed up enough and has not come in recently that the wind is blowing this seaweed down the beach. That's the indication that the water has backed off for a little while. But we've got another high tide around 7 o'clock tonight. The wind, which was east-northeast at sunrise, or I should say north-northeast, went east-northeast. Now it's almost due east at about 80 degrees on the compass. We're still gusting in the 40s, and we've got sustained winds 25 to 30 miles an hour. Persistent rain, Mark, but for the most part today, it's been light rain. So we haven't had the deluge of 1 to 2 inches an hour, nothing like that from any of the bands that have come in so far. But we've got more rain coming in tonight as these winds continue to be rather fresh and gusty. But we are now just under a tropical storm warning from Port Aransas north. Still Corpus under that hurricane warning overnight. Mark Elliott, back to you.
Absolutely. It has been interesting watching the latest trends on the radar as well, with that north side now starting to fill in. Normally, it is the right side compared to the movement that is loaded with some of the worst of the impacts. In this case, it's been kind of a southern skewed storm for days, and that trend continues. So you could argue that some of the worst of the rain has been on that south and west side, but look at the presentation of this eye wall now. I mean, it's really filling in, including on what had been a kind of almost open or a little sliver of dry air impacting that north side. I don't think that's there anymore. I think the storm has kind of pushed that away. We're now seeing a very symmetrical look to that central core for our storm. That means more communities and even more rain. So as of the 5 o'clock Eastern time advisory, the 4 o'clock Central time, 90 mile per hour wind, a top end Cat 1 hurricane moving west-southwest close to 8 miles per hour. We're going to get an update on the positioning every hour. Some small changes are possible at those times, but really we're waiting on the landfall statement. The landfall statement does not mean that things are done. For many of you, it may mean that things are just beginning. So please do not put your guard down, even when we tell you in, say, half an hour or so that landfall either is about to occur or has occurred officially. That's only the midway point of the storm. There's a lot more to go. Hurricane warnings continuing from around Corpus Christi southbound through Port Mansfield. Tropical storm warnings surrounding that, and look how far inland they go, all the way to the Mexican border, because I think we will get tropical storm winds well across South Texas tonight. And, well, with that comes a core of very heavy rain. A flash flood watch is in place across as far as north, really, as the Galveston Bay area, but then all the way down through all of South Texas. Flash flood potential is high. One quick look at where this storm is going to be going for the next, 24 to 48 hours, even into early Monday. The core of this is going to be moving into the higher terrain of Mexico, and that means some increased risk to the flash flooding, because you have all the, the downward motion of that rain. It pools in the low-lying areas, not to be outdone by what could occur closer to our coastline and closer to the coast, where there could be, a 1.5 feet of rain, Dr. Nab, for some communities as this storm, Hanna, moves inland. Yeah, so this is not your everyday flash flood watch. This is ramped up a bit in terms of the risk. This is a high-risk day. The Weather Prediction Center highlighting a high-risk, very likely flash flooding in deep South Texas, especially the populous Rio Grande Valley area, Brownsville, Harlingen, McAllen, all of those communities that are very, very flood-prone. Some of you could get more than 1 foot of rain, and it's because you're on the south side, the rainier side, generally speaking, of the hurricane. So in this case, it's not good to be on the left side, and we're starting to get flood advisories showing up. I would consider these to be pre-flash flood warnings, because we're going to get flash flood warnings eventually in this area. Right now, a flood advisory from Brownsville up through Harlingen, San Benito, Lago, and those areas you want to be off the roads now, because it's only going to get worse, because the rain rates in the southern eye wall are 2, 3, 4 inches per hour, 8 inches in 3 hours. It is really going to ramp up. So don't drive on any water-covered roads. Don't drive around any barricades. And if water comes into your home and your life is threatened by flooding, don't get out and drive. Call 911.
A migraine hope from Aimovig to show up for the sweet, the hectic, the tender, the tense, the frustrating, and the fiery. But for many, migraine keeps them from saying, I am here. We aim to change that with Aimovig, a preventive treatment for migraine in adults. 1 dose once a month is proven to reduce monthly migraine days, for some by half or more. Don't take Aimovig if you're allergic to it. Allergic reactions like rash or swelling can happen hours to days after use. Severe constipation can happen, sometimes with serious complications. Common side effects include injection site reactions and constipation. It doesn't matter what each day brings, so long as you can say, I am here. Aim to be there more. Talk to your doctor about Aimovig.
St. Jude is a very special place. It's a home for all these kids that get all these sicknesses.
Cancer, it's trying to take over the whole body, and so you have to fight it.
La leucemia te da dolor de cabeza.
You can join the battle to save lives by supporting St. Jude Children's Research Hospital.
It takes a heart for somebody to say, I'm willing to give to St. Jude so that they can help save more lives.
Families never receive a bill from St. Jude for treatment, travel, housing, or food, because all a family should worry about is helping their child live.
It's not fair that a 2.5-year-old has to worry about, am I gonna make it?
Cancer doesn't care how old you are. It attacks when you least expect it. And it's devastatingly scary.
1 in 5 children diagnosed with cancer in the U.S. will not survive.
The doctor came to me and he said, Mom, you don't have to be afraid anymore. I'm gonna take care of your baby.
St. Jude won't stop until no child dies of cancer. Please call or go online right now and become a St. Jude Partner in Hope for only $19 a month. When you call or go online at pourstjude.org with your credit or debit card right now, we'll send you this St. Jude t-shirt you can wear to show your support for the children of St. Jude.
We were very afraid when we came here, and now we're not.
Please call or go online at pourstjude.org.
Hey, I didn't order any pizza.
Jake from State Farm. After you saved me so much dough on insurance with that Parker promo, I devised a promo for you.
Here's the deal, Parker. State Farm offers everyone surprisingly great rates.
Yeah, right. Pepperoni pockets, an atomic brownie, cuckoo crusties.
There's no promo, it's just great rates.
And a cider ranch. You're the man, man.
When you want the real deal, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Welcome back as we are following Hurricane Hanna, as are the hurricane hunters. You're getting a spectacular view here inside the eye of Hurricane Hanna from the hurricane hunters just a few hours ago. Look at that stadium effect, right? That kind of slope side to this storm. Organizing hurricanes, still looking more and more symmetrical, and the presentation looks better each moment, which is bad news in South Texas. Gosh, what a difference from 24 hours ago when this was 50-mile-per-hour winds. Now we're looking at least 90-mile-per-hour winds. And we also have this look from inside the plane, a bit of a dash cam view, right, from this morning's flight going into the eye wall from that growing storm, Hurricane Hanna. Again, still even more organized now than at the time of this flight. But gosh, it's like going through a washing machine, right? And then all of a sudden you pop out, you can see some of the clearing as you go into the eye. Quite the job that those hurricane hunters do. That data so valuable. And it makes the forecast better. It makes everything better with them flying into the storm. Now we're looking live from the ground here. This is the Port Mansfield area. Port Mansfield, some Doppler radar estimates of like, 4 to 5 inches of rain, but some actual reports in the Port Mansfield region of 7 to 8 inches of rain. So the radar has actually been underdoing how much rain has already fallen, which again is bad news. That data goes into the models. If it's not handling how much rain is actually coming down that well, it means the modeling for what could still be falling might not be as high as it otherwise would be. A lot of rain is on the way. I think flash flooding is going to be an increasing threat. The tornado threat is going to be an increasing threat as well as we go through the next several hours and really right on through the evening. Let's bring you up to speed on what's happening right now with this storm. This is Hurricane Hanna, 90-mile-per-hour winds as of our latest advisory. Cat 1 storm, a kind of a top-end Cat 1 hurricane, a big difference from a moderate tropical storm to a top-end Cat 1. That is a big change, orders of magnitude difference for the wind strength and the damage potential from that wind because of that. And we've heard some reports of even the asphalt shingles being ripped off some roofs already. So there has been some damage, and again, the flood threat is still increasing here. Let's look at the power outages and how those have changed as we've gone through the day. Started to get some reports of outages in the early morning hours, but gosh, more recently we've seen a big uptick in those as our core has really gotten closer in, and you're not going to have the utility crews at their full repair type service because the winds are going to be too strong for some of those bucket trucks to go up and put up new lines, stuff like that. So when you lose power, you may be out of it for a while. Remember, landfall is imminent, but that's for many of you just the beginning of the storm. It's only halfway through that slice of the storm. We've got a long ways to go. The onshore flow is continuing, including at the Bob Hall Pier, where we've gotten now confirmed reports that end where the pier turns to almost like a T, that has collapsed and is no longer attached to the rest of the pier. So gosh, that is bad news there with about a 4-foot water rise at this point. Look how far inland, because of the bay here, that onshore push of water has gotten all the way towards the Corpus Christi area, the edge of the bay, 3.6 feet of water rise at this point. And you can go up the coastline with about 1 to 2 foot water rise as well. Here is that Bob Hall Pier area. Where we're at now is about 3.8 feet of storm surge, but it was a little bit higher than that a couple hours ago. There's still an onshore push. It's going to be real hard to get that water to exit the region. So storm surge flooding is still going to be a risk. And as I mentioned, you can go up the coastline. This is now the Galveston Bay area, the outside Houston, 1 to 2 feet of water rise here. Not the only storm the hurricane hunters are flying through, not the only storm that we're watching here. We can take a look at Hawaii because Hurricane Douglas is still approaching. This is a live look at Maui where, gosh, looks inviting for the moment. It's a tough approach for hurricanes to come from this direction and keep their strength. But Dr. Knabb, that doesn't mean there won't be any impacts across the Hawaiian Islands.
No, in fact, some of the impacts in some portions of the islands could be very significant because you're going to at least be destabilizing the atmosphere. You're not going to have the trade wind inversion to keep everything nice and calm like you saw on that live camera, and at least have some heavy rainfall and very dangerous surf, but the terrain can also enhance the wind. So when these tall islands interact with a hurricane, it can get very, very dicey even without a direct hit. Now, certainly Douglas doesn't look like it did when it was a major hurricane. Maximum sustained winds are just like Hanna, 90 miles per hour, Category 1, moving very quickly west-northwest at 18. Now, there are some changes with this latest advisory at 5 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Hawaiian, almost noontime out in Hawaii. Tropical storm warnings now issued for the Big Island and Maui County. You still have a hurricane watch, but now Honolulu, Oahu, you're under a hurricane warning. Boy, that doesn't happen very often. Didn't ever happen to me while I lived out there. So you got to get ready because by late tomorrow morning, the conditions could really be going downhill. And the official forecast, this would be the 36-hour point. So this is for 2 a.m. Eastern tonight, 8 p.m. Hawaiian. This is 2 p.m. tomorrow and 8 a.m. Hawaiian. Then this is 2 a.m. tomorrow night and 8 p.m. tomorrow night Hawaii time. So that's when you could have the closest approach to Oahu. Here's the close-up of the hurricane, and here it is. So close to the Hawaiian Islands. Please get ready for potential flash flooding and power outages and wind damage.
Your new Honda is ready to go, like the Pilot or Passport. Get a great deal on the Passport at the Honda Summer Clearance event today.
Summer's scorching heat. It gets worse every year. But for the animals forced to live in these conditions, it can be deadly. Animals who've been left outside in excruciating temperatures, with no access to water or food, and little protection from the sweltering sun. They're running out of time, and that's why we're out there right now, racing to reach the animals who are trying to hold on for one more day.
We're just seeing dogs that are very dehydrated, no water in any of these water containers. What most of these dogs need is really fluids and nutrition.
Please help save them by going online or calling this number with your gift of just $19 a month. Your support today means rescuing more animals who are suffering in the unbearable heat this summer. Visit joinaspca.org on any device or call right now with your gift of only 63 cents a day. We urgently need 2,000 new donors in the next 30 days. So for taking action in the next 10 minutes, we'll send you this free membership kit with our member magazine, a photo of a rescued animal, and this one-of-a-kind Animal Champion t-shirt.
Every time I come to one of these properties, I'm struck by the same emotions. I mean, you just think about the lack of care that they have received. You know, it's heartbreaking.
Time is running out, and many of these animals who are suffering this summer may not make it. Please don't let them suffer another day. Go online or call right now.
Every glass of Tropicana watermelon has a million little sips of sun.
Real people are realizing there's a better way to mobile.
My carrier probably has a lot of fees I don't even know are there. Basic phone line access, federal universal service charge, I don't even know what that is. Why am I paying these fees?
At Spectrum Mobile, there are no added taxes and fees. What you see is what you pay. $45 a line with our unlimited data plan or $14 a gig with our Buy the Gig plan.
The calculator said that we would save $600 a year. We've actually saved $612 in half a year.
With Spectrum Mobile, I'm saving over $350 a year.
$650 a year. It's true. Most customers who use our calculator find they could save hundreds every year. Don't wait. Find your savings at SpectrumMobile.com or call 844-258-8115 and get it all with free nationwide talk and text and no contracts.
I'm ready to switch.
Get more for less with our unlimited data plan for $45 a line or our Buy the Gig plan for $14 a gig. Plus, get the flexibility to mix and match plans. Visit a Spectrum store. Go to SpectrumMobile.com or call 844-258-8115.
A culture, a mindset, and a new point of view. Babbel, language for life. Go to Babbel.com and try it for free today.
Whoever said our planet had to explain itself? Explore the strange phenomena of our weird Earth. Sunday nights on the Weather Channel.
A tropical storm warning is in effect. Currently in our area, 75 degrees with rain and windy conditions. Tonight, tropical storm conditions likely. Windy with heavy thunderstorms. Low 75. Sunday, windy with thunderstorms. High 81. 1 to 2 inches of rain expected. Here's our 7-day outlook.
Welcome back to the Weather Channel. Our continuing coverage of Hurricane Hanna. We'll also get back and get an update on Hurricane Douglas heading towards the Hawaiian Islands, and 92L, feisty tropical wave, which may have some impact. Hard to say, in about 10 to 14 days here in the U.S. We're going to watch that one as it steams across the Atlantic into the Caribbean. Meanwhile, back here in the Gulf of Mexico, look at the Gulf. It's been churned up since late last night as the wind started to increase from approaching, at that time, Tropical Storm Hanna, and the water took over the whole beach. It's been underwater all day. With that said, it's a very level, flat beach. There's not much elevation, so you don't have to get much of a surge to cover the beach. We have had beach erosion, though. The waves rolling in, taking cuts out of these big dunes Huge dune system here protecting the property, so no salt water getting beyond the dunes by far. But it is coming up the roadway here. You can see some of the cut here. Look at this sign here, this warning sign doing the wind dance here, the Hanna wind dance. This is the main entrance to the beach here. You can drive up to the beach. What a great beach. Yesterday, good place to be. It was 99 over in Corpus Christi. But look at all the stuff that has blown up the street here. Now, this morning, if you're watching us, we had porta potties. They've got these anchored groups of porta potties and the trash cans, which were not taken off the beach, and they got loose, and they've been floating around, and they've ended up. But look at all the debris here. This is going to be really most of the cleanup, Dr. Nab, on the beach. Inland so far, all we've seen is the the obligatory typical palm fronds from Hanna here. Our peak wind gust only 53, but as you know, we've already had hurricane-force sustained winds and gusts over 100 miles an hour offshore. You got the latest on Hanna and the impacts from this point on, which includes a lot of rainfall.
Certainly does, Mike. This is not just going to be a coastal event, not even just going to be a U.S. event. Northeastern Mexico, Monterrey is going to get a very heavy rainfall event. Big flood risk for both countries, both sides of the Rio Grande. And it's fortunate for where Mike is that it wasn't a little farther north. He didn't quite get in these strong gust winds, which are going to be occurring a little farther south between Corpus and Brownsville on the onshore flow side. So as of the 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central advisory, 90-mile-an-hour winds. My goodness. Category 1 moving west-southwest at 8. It is very, very close to coming ashore. I'll show you just how close in a moment. Thanks to the hurricane hunters being out there today to really document just how strong this has gotten today. The data from the planes are vital to really knowing what we're dealing with and verifying forecasts and so forth. Still got hurricane warnings up here. Corpus Christi southward down to Port Mansfield. Those will be up for a little while. And look at how far inland those tropical storm warnings go. Still have storm surge warnings because even after landfall occurs, we're going to have onshore flow for quite a while. So it's going to take some time for these numbers to come down. This is above normally dry ground. We are getting close to high tide there at the Bob Hall Pier. Now, the tidal range is not very large, so the tide is not contributing as much as the storm is. But with the storm, being far enough south, these numbers have come down a little bit to what they were. And the onshore flow still producing a 1.5 to 2 foot water rise above normally dry ground at the coast up near Galveston. So here is that Bob Hall Pier. So now we're up at 3.5 feet. Got a little higher than that over the last couple of hours, and that's above normally dry ground. So that's above that 3-foot threshold that we consider to be life-threatening for storm surge. And we're going to have high tide here in a little bit. Then we'll have low tide overnight tonight, and then another high tide tomorrow morning. And there will still be some onshore flow at that time. So there still will be some coastal flood issues. But speaking of flood issues, flash flood watch over deep South Texas. The Rio Grande is at high risk for very significant rainfall and flash flooding. And Brownsville, you're gusting out of the west at 30 miles an hour, but I'm less concerned about the wind. There will be some. There could be some power outages due to the wind, but you're on the very wet south side of this storm. As it's about to come ashore, the eye is trying to clear out on the satellite, but this south side has the longest duration rainfall. And that's why this part of the storm, as it moves inland this way, this is what's coming over the populous Rio Grande Valley. But look at that. The center of circulation just a few miles, maybe a couple miles offshore. So we're moments away, I think, from landfall of the center of Hanna. But this is just the beginning for some of you. And what an amazing change it has been since 24 hours ago, Mark, to get this strong of a hurricane when we had a 50-mile-an-hour storm this time yesterday.
Gosh, such a big change, and that's made a lot of people have a lot of questions for us. We want to answer a couple of those. You've been using the hashtag hurricane questions, and Pyrotechnic says, where is the dirty side of Hurricane Hanna? Does it have the potential to dump massive amounts of water in certain areas like Hurricane Harvey did, Dr.
Well,
Nab?
it has two dirty sides. The north side is the dirty wind side and storm surge side. The south side is the dirty rainfall side, and that's where the worst flooding will occur, unfortunately, for folks in Brownsville and Harlingen and McAllen. Wow, look at this. So landfall is imminent. Hurricane Center should be calling this very, very soon. We'll update you on when landfall occurs, but the waterfall just beginning.
Experience the adventure of a bigger world in a highly capable Lexus SUV at the Golden Opportunity Sales Event.
Get 0% financing on all 2020 Lexus models.
Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer.